Hello users and welcome back to another episode of Above It All. This is the series in where I talk truth to my YouTube channel and not to power because nobody powerful watches my YouTube videos. However, if you are somebody who is powerful and has a lot of influence and also money, consider giving me money on Patreon. Thank you very much. Alright, so with that being said, Alright, so let me just play this little meme clip here where they do like a little bit of an audio review of the story.
The latest Harvard Capps-Harris poll finds that 55% of voters say they believe Tara Reade's allegation of sexual assault against former Vice President Joe Biden. 45% say they do not believe she is telling the truth. But most people surveyed say that it will not affect how they vote in November. 78% of Republicans and 56% of independents believe Reade. 66% of Democrats do not believe her. About two-thirds of Democrats...
Think about that disparity and how it was reversed 2 years ago with the Kavanaugh thing. Think about that. 66% of Democrats are scumbags to the core of the fibers that create their person. Like the brain cells and the white blood cells and the heart cells and like the liver cells that work together in effortless harmony to create the person that would say something like they don't believe sexual assault survivors and then also claim, oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm a good guy. 66% of Democrats are scumbags to the core.
56% of independents say the allegation will not affect how they vote. Biden leads Trump in the poll 53% to 47%.
So we're in a situation where it looks like a majority of independents, which obviously are the swing voters here, believe Tara Reade. Now, they can say that X amount will not base their decision on that, but it's one of those things where like that's impossible to really track. Like it's one of those things where that I don't think that question really matters. Like for example, I will say this, I've said this before, I will vote in North Carolina strategically for whoever has the highest likelihood of defeating Donald Trump in this state in the Electoral College. So if that's Joe Biden, it's Joe Biden. If it's Andrew Cuomo, it's Andrew Cuomo. If it's Vermin Supreme, it's Vermin Supreme. Now, but the thing is, I am not going to have any sort of, it's May. I could change my opinion. My opinion can change. Now, I can say that that's my opinion right now, but that opinion does not really matter when it comes to what election day is. That opinion 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out is going to be much more valuable. So that's one thing I want to point out here. And the other thing is that, again, you can believe the Tara Reade incident and also still advocate to strategically vote out Donald Trump and to prevent him from being reelected. If someone says that because Joe Biden is a sexual predator, that means that you can't vote for him under any circumstance, I'm sorry, that's dumb. I've been a victim of sexual assault, and I think that's dumb. And I get it, you don't like Joe Biden, I don't like him either. But Donald Trump has specifically fundamentally made my life worse in multiple ways, and I will not do anything that can facilitate him getting a second term. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. So, and I understand the bait and switch, I understand the fucking ratchet effect, I get all that bullshit. Anybody who wants to use these numbers to say that Joe Biden is disqualified, I get you. But, if you want to talk down, here's the thing. If you want to talk down to someone who is a leftist like myself, and you also claim to be a leftist, 1, you're wasting your time. 2, you're being a fucking obnoxious asshole. 3, you're weakening your own movement. And 4, you have much better things to do. Again, 60-some% of Democrats don't believe her. Now, that is ridiculous. They have been taught this Russia fucking nonsense. Oh, she bounced a check 25 years ago, therefore she's obviously a liar. And even though Joe Biden lied about fucking getting arrested while protesting apartheid in South Africa, and he totally made that up, that's fine. Like, those people, you are much more valuably spending your time trying to convince those people that at least she's telling the truth than you are blocking and unfollowing fellow leftists that say, like, I'm just going to do it, who cares? Because at the end of the day, the election doesn't really matter that much. Now, I will focus on the election to the extent that I can without making my fucking brain explode, just because it is a hot topic. I can I can attract new followers, new subscribers, and that's one of the main reasons I keep following the story. And also, it's just important. The details are important. And one of those things is, like, you can elect someone that you disagree with, and then outside of the ballot box, influence what happens. Like, for example, you can protest in front of the White House, as little good as that does, TBH. But if you have enough, say 1 million people, that's going to change something. Like, there's the statistic or whatever that if you can get like 5% of the population to be militantly in favor of a revolution and then organize that 5%, that you can do whatever the fuck you want. And that's kind of what I'm interested in. Not necessarily in an armed revolution, of course, but like, I'm more interested in getting 5 to 10% of the population that's militant and will do literally whatever we can. Like, once we come up with a plan of action, they will dedicate themselves to that plan of action. That is much more of a valuable end goal to me than to influence the general election in 2020 at this point. I'm sorry. Like, the Bernie campaign failed, and we failed not only because of our own shortcomings, but also because of the media, also because of rigging, also because of the rules not being fairly, distributed, and how they affect, like, look at the state delegate equivalent bullshit in Iowa, for example. Like, we lost, and that is horrible, and that sets us back a very large amount of time. Like, it feels like all the progress that's been made since 2016 has been completely undone. I feel like a lot of people focused on Bernie or bust, and instead of saying, like, or bust, like, I'll fucking commit myself to direct action. When they say Bernie or bust, they meant, I'll just, go on Twitter all day and talk about how anybody that ever will say they'll vote for Joe Biden, even if he's a terrible person who also supported Bernie Sanders, is my enemy, and I'm going to spend fucking 16 hours a day making fun of Bernie supporters for disliking Donald Trump enough to vote for Joe Biden. I'm going to spend all of my time and effort destroying my own fucking movement that I claim to care about to promote an accelerationist agenda, which is just fascism in sheep's clothing. It's unbelievable the amount of time that is being wasted by dumb motherfuckers when it comes to this whole Tara Reade thing. Like, this was a good death nail for the Biden campaign. Like, if Bernie were still in the race right now, I feel like we'd be in a completely different dynamic. I feel like Bernie dropping out is disappointing. He should not have done so. He should have vehemently argued that the pandemic primaries were illegitimate, which they were. The last primary that we had that was even remotely legitimate was on Super Tuesday. Any election that took place after Super Tuesday, honestly, the results should be annulled, and anybody who went to the voting place should get like $5,000 checks for having to deal with that bullshit. There have already been people that are dead now. There are human beings filled with hopes and dreams, connected to dozens of family members, whom are dead because people like Joe Biden and Tom Perez decided, let's have a fucking Wisconsin primary. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit here. There are people whose lives are not, put on hold. Their lives aren't delayed until they can pay off their medical debt. Their lives aren't delayed until they can recover from COVID. Their lives are over. They are done. You can always redo an election. You can't revive people from the fucking grave. And that's the thing here that really is, I think, more important than anything here. And I do understand that the world sucks right now, but we gotta focus. This is interesting information. Alright, this is very interesting information. And if they don't swap out Biden, which is looking increasingly more likely given this situation, and also the fact that a DNC person said that that's what they're going to do. Like, I don't know how that hasn't circulated more, but a DNC person literally said that they're going to do that. Like, watch my video about it. I think I made it yesterday. Like, this is a good situation to actually make substantive direct action and like to actually move the needle in a way that like isn't based on just being on Twitter 16 hours a day. And that's what I want to focus on, because like if it's possible in any capacity to make Joe Biden not the nominee, and they don't go with whoever's got second place, that spells trouble for the Democratic Party. And that's something that I don't think they can reckon with. However, I do think in the short term, getting rid of Trump will take precedence over that. Like, again, if they throw Andrew Cuomo in there, I'll vote for Andrew Cuomo if he's got the highest likelihood in my state to beat Donald Trump. Now, Joe Biden could get mad that he got replaced and run as an independent, and that would be kind of funny. But my position here is that we don't know what's going to happen between now and November. If you were to go between now and November is what, like 6 months, right? If you were to go 6 months from here backwards, where would you be right now? You'd be at the Bernie Sanders rally, you'd be on the fucking Bernie dialer, you'd be on their donate page, and you'd be on Twitter all day talking about how, like, you know, it's okay to hope that people can live their lives without having to worry about medical bankruptcy or without having to worry about dying if they get into a car accident. You like spent so much time advocating for that, you can't let that all fall apart because of some fucking smarmy scumbags. Because like the left movement in this country is at like a historical height. You know, like since like the 1930s and 40s, maybe the 1960s as well, we haven't really seen such like a profound class awakening in this country. Now, the problem is the circumstances are that people are starving and there's a pandemic going on and there's very little room for protest. There's very little room for extracurricular activities. People are just stuck where they are. And, you know, like, and we need to reach out to those people. Like, again, if you're going to spend with this information, with the Tara Reade information, you need to convince as many people as possible on the Bernie platform or go down ballot Democrats. This is the other thing. They're like Shahid Buttar. If you're a Bernie person and you're now a pissed off doomer, go back up Shahid Buttar. It's the same electoral strategy, just, you know, instead of targeting the whole nation, it targets one specific district. And it also has the side effect of if people go out to vote for Shahid Buttar, you know, well, honestly, actually, I'll make that argument with other down ballot progressives. If people, you can advocate for the Democratic nominee for president without actually supporting them. You can advocate for the down ballot Democrats, and if a Democrat beats a Republican in a general election, in a congressional race, chances are that the Democratic nominee for president will also beat Donald Trump. And that's the thing that's like, there's so many ways that you could go about playing with this information. And I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of time being wasted. And I also may have just wasted a lot of time arguing and talking to myself about time being wasted. I don't know. What do y'all think about this situation? I think it gives us a very interesting opportunity to make something of this, but I also don't think that that opportunity is going to take place. I don't think that there is actually going to be any grand move. I think the likelihood of Bernie becoming the nominee after all this time at this point is less than 0.1%. And as devastating as that is, you know, we need to move forward. We can't just fucking pretend like a Trump re-election is okay, because it's not okay. And there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on here. But hey, we got 6 months to work with it. So hear me out. Deal with it. We'll figure it out by November, if we're even still alive by then. Because honestly, there's a good chance that at least one person watching this YouTube video might be dead by November from the COVID pandemic. Anything's possible. So don't worry about November if, you know, you need to worry about actually surviving. And that's kind of what we need to build those mutual aid-based relationships, and we need to build community strength. And that's always going to translate into things that are going to help us, you know, whether or not it be endorsing someone in the 2024 presidential primary, whether or not be, you know, getting into city council races, whether or not be getting into congressional races. You know what I mean? If you build that community strength, that's going to translate to real, actual, like, substantive change in your life. And that's, you know, if you got any friends that you ever had, high school, you know, like college or whatever, give them a ring, ask if they're how they're doing, if they live in your neighborhood. You know, if you have any elderly people, like, you know, grandparents, aunt, uncle, offer to buy them groceries if that's something you can do. You know, even if they're paying you and you just go, you know, physically get them and drop them off. Do anything you can to help the people in your life, because that's going to be more important than who you scribble on a piece of paper 6 months from now. And thank you for watching my video, and give me money on Patreon. Because seriously, like, hello? Like, do I need to even, like, look at this? Come on.